Welcome to the Conquerors Podcast. My name is Manish Khatta, and with me today I have Chief Growth Officer Jeffrey. What's up, man?
Cheers. I am here, man. I appreciate the opportunity to come back together, just the two of us. A couple of OGs.
It's been a long time.
I know. It's been a while since we've done
Today,
one by
today we
ourselves.
got something special, huh? Today's product launch day. Hopefully by now
It
you've
is.
seen the press release. We are launching a new product called OCIO by Potomac. We've launched a lot of products over the last couple of years at Potomac, and they all come from demand. If we get enough questions from
Right.
financial advisors, we write those things down, and eventually we all get together and say, maybe there's a product that needs to be launched to serve the needs of the financial advisors. And this is what we're doing today. Over and over, when we talk to advisors, they talk about our models or technology. But what I've seen, the question that comes up is this OCIO, this concept of helping me combine models. And so let's start with that term right there, models, right? Because they've been called models and investment strategists from strategies,
Yeah.
and it's all over the map. So let's peel this back a little bit. What exactly is an investment model to begin with?
Yeah. The best way to think about it is the model is just a combination of trades that happens on a platform so that every client in that same model gets the exact same trade at the same time. So it's a nice, simple way to provide a particular client experience from an investment standpoint to a multitude of clients.
And so one of the things that come up with advisors is they've used to pick mutual funds and stocks and ETFs, and they wanted to outsource that, which we're big believers at. But now
Right.
they have a list of 1,000 models, right? Where typically are advisors going to look at these different models?
It depends on where they are. Some TAMPs will just offer fact sheets for those models that are provided by the managers. Some TAMPs will offer, some tools. But a lot of advisors are just going to the managers themselves, whether they get a referral from a buddy or whatever, and they'll contact that manager. But that's a really slow and can be somewhat painful process. And in the end, you have multiple individual ideas, but nothing to put it together.
And a lot of these with the whole Morningstar ID, right? Morningstar kind of is the monopoly in terms of, they
Yeah,
call
no
them
kidding.
SMAs, right? Separately managed accounts. But a lot of times they're delivered via model delivery on different TAMPs
Right.
or custodians. But essentially, a lot of the research in terms of performance stems from those Morningstar IDs.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Morningstar sort of has the, monopoly, if you will. And essentially, we all, as a manager, right, you provide your month end data for your model, the performance for the month end data to Morningstar, and then a multitude of different tools and software packages and TAMPs and so forth can grab that data and then provide that as a service, piece of information for you, the advisor, to look at.
So I'm an advisor. I've decided
Yep.
to outsource to these different institutional managers. I go to maybe my proposal system, whatever the TAMP provides me, Y charts, whatever it may be. And I'm like, okay, now I have these 1,000 different models to choose from. And the question that comes to us a lot is we're talking about our own models, right? We're a model that's available on these
Hmm.
TAMPs along with many thousands of other models. So the questions that come up is great. I'm not going to use 100% of any model. So now what do I do? Because I feel like I'm going back to picking mutual funds because I'm sifting through these thousands of managers trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. And that is why we built OCIO by Potomac, is trying to solve that problem. So, tell us about what you do on a day-to-day basis, especially when it comes from the OCIO side and what we actually have built here.
Sure. Well, the service and concept is the fact that, number one, even if you have been able to create your own due diligence process, that's great. But the average advisor, I mean, look, you don't have time to go figure out what even 100 different managers do, right? And then maybe pick 10 out of there that work. As I said, this is what I've done most of my career. So I've looked at almost 500 managers in my day. So I start the process with not only having a process for due diligence, but having looked at such a broad range of different strategists that create different models, that I have the ability to then say, okay, well, look, here's why these two or three or four different things need to go together, and that's, It's almost like I've put the puzzle together before, and advisors don't have the cover on the puzzle box, right? They have all these pieces, but they don't know what the puzzle is supposed to actually look like. And that's where the advantage of having done this for so long is, and to be able to train our team and so forth on how to do that. So
What was eye-opening for us as well is, you look at these huge TAMPs out there and you think that they have this, breadth of due diligence and consulting and all these things. And some do, but we've had advisors from the largest TAMPs in the industry come to us for help because they're not getting any. Maybe there's a preferred list that wink wink may or may not be paid for. Maybe there's a couple combinations, but there's no kind of data behind it. And so some of these advisors just feel lost. They really want someone to sit down and like you said, put the puzzle pieces together. And that was surprising to me, especially in our daily conversations, is, why I've always asked you this, like, why are these people calling us? Like, don't they have someone at their firm that does that?
yeah, they don't, and that's the reality check, right? Even a lot of the larger firms, and part of it is just there are some firms, sometimes it's a business decision. They don't want to be in that space of making those recommendations. They want to just provide the smorgasbord and then let you decide what you want to eat from it. And that's, look, every business, every TAMP can make their own decision there. But the reality is there is a need, and that need by advisors, it needs to be filled. And that's one of the things we can do. And likewise, as we've seen, TAMPs themselves, not every TAMP has somebody who has that background or experience. And that makes it hard because when the advisors contact or reach out to the TAMP, they don't really have an answer, right? And they
And
don't know
so
how to answer it. They don't know how to fill the spot. Like, what do they even ask for, right?
And that was the next progression as to why we're launching this
Hmm.
product. Because initially, we would work with advisors, and we still do, but our time is limited. And so, unless the advisor has a certain amount of money, it's really hard for us to dedicate an OCIO to that advisor. And then something interesting happened. We were approached by a number of TAMPs, as well as something that happened recently with a smaller broker dealer. So essentially, what's happening is some of these TAMPs are not RIAs. They're technology firms. And so for
Correct.
them, when they're putting together the models and the onboarding, it never occurred to them that maybe the users would actually not know what models to pick to begin with. And so this is kind of transformed from helping advisors to now, which, let me know if you agree or not, but the audience at this point is essentially going to be large advisors, and
Right.
or enterprise, i.e. TAMPs. And recently we've had conversations with a couple of broker dealers that are in the same boat. They're like, we have these models. We don't want to be the person that takes responsibility for putting together, and we'd rather outsource that to someone else. So can you let's touch on a couple of the enterprise things we have going on and what the audience is here?
Yeah, you're spot on, right? In the understanding, and I don't think the people in our industry, like advisors, necessarily understand that most of the TAMPs, or many of the TAMPs that are out there, providing this warehouse, if you will, of models for them to choose and pick from, are in fact technology offerings. Now, I don't say that, I'm not throwing a stone here. There's nothing wrong with that. That's, in fact, that's pretty cool because technology runs this whole thing, no matter what the ownership entity is. But if you're a technology offering, you're really not wanting to be in the role of making recommendations about use 20% of manager B, 40% of manager C, et cetera, right? That's not your thing. You just want to bring that pot together and let them go. And so it's that gap. And we see the same thing with the broker dealer, as you mentioned, in the broker dealer space. That was my former role, right? That's how I got in this 20 years ago, was the fact that advisors needed somebody who knew what was available and how to put those things together based on their need, their philosophy, their client niche, their license, all those fun things, and how to put those together. And so that's where it started. And now with broker dealers wanting to help advisors move more and farther down that advisory road, or maybe stop managing so much themselves and outsource more, this outsourced chief investment officer capability really comes in pretty handy for them.
Yeah, and we've learned. I mean, we offered this to all of our clients, and at some point it got to be overbearing. We could not do that. And so we've had to pivot and say, listen, we can only do this for really large books, and now soon, transferring more over to enterprise deals where we can offer that. And part of that offering is Insight by Potomac, which is our proprietary due diligence tool, which you had a big role in rolling out. So we want to quickly touch on that being a part of this product.
Yeah, that's exciting. My team, I want to thank my advisor education team, Shelly Brockman. Spent a lot of time and energy, and Chase and Shelly both work on that, keep it up to snuff, along with me. Essentially, it's a tool that, if you think about the structure, is almost more like a forum where you can have different things on the left, and you click on those, and then you find the conversations, or in this case, the data on the right. And what that really means is, from a due diligence standpoint, to help back up and support the OCIO process, is a list of strategists that you can go to, choose, and then be able to have all of the background data, the annual diligence offer, questionnaire, have fact sheets, have marketing information, all of those kinds of things, links to the website, in a manner in which you can control the inbox chaos. Because think about it, if you use, whether it be 5 managers, let's just pick on 5. If you only use 5, which is actually pretty few in our industry from what I've seen, I think you can do a good book with only 5 if you choose them well. But if you have 5 managers and they each send 2 email a week, that's 10 a week, 5 weeks, you're looking at 50 email in your inbox. With Insight, when we do this, even if it's at a firm level, right, you can control the firm, the broker dealer, or the TAMP, or the large advisor can choose that maybe this particular manager, I want to make sure I get every notification that happens. Every time something's posted, it'll get an email notification. But for the other 4, maybe they, for whatever reason, they don't want to see those on every single post. So instead, they get a weekly digest, and it'll have the updates. So now you have one of them that gets 2 a week, and then a weekly digest to catch up on everything. So you can control that, as well as have all that support and background to the decisions that you're making to follow those different managers.
I mean, I think more importantly is if you look at the new SEC proposal, they are going to come down on advisors who blindly outsource. If you outsource to a model or a list of models, you got to know what you're investing in. You got to know what the experience is, what the expectations are. You can't just allocate a portfolio and walk away. And so this provides you that backup data, that ongoing due diligence that you can file away and simply understand, what you're getting into. So, that proposal rule came out, months after that we launched this, because we saw the need. You have to be able to be able to put those portfolios together.
I will say I had,
go ahead.
If I could, Manish, I had a great statement by an advisor that we were talking to, is a very large advisor, not too long ago. And her statement was this: being an engineer as a background, she really, pays attention to all the details, right? But after many years in this business and having a very large book, she said, I can't defend any of my decisions on why I've chosen these managers or the combinations. Right. And that moment was it was like, oh, that's a perfect statement, because you have to ask yourself, okay, I've got this 40, 50, $100 million book, or 200 million, whatever it is, or I have a TAMP. Can I defend the decisions that I've made? Not by paperwork, right? Well, the client signed it, so it's okay. What did you do to decide that manager or that combination was good? And what are you doing to follow it and keep up and make sure that needs to stay the same?
Well, the ongoing is important, which is why we have a due diligence questionnaire, and we ask people, did you violate your max drawdown this year, and if you did, why? What happened? Right? You have to dig into these things, because it's not just the allocation part; it's then the ongoing. Should you stick with that manager? You have to do that work, and I think we're early, because a lot of large enterprise, they're going to feel the need to put this in place. But it's still, the onus will still fall on the advisor to make sure that it's done properly. So one thing that I think you should address here is Potomac has models that are on different TAMPs. You are now going to be an OCIO for that TAMP. Conflict of interest? possibly?
Yeah, 100%. It's a conflict of interest, right? But you have to disclose that. But in the end, part of the documentation is that not only documentation and process is that Potomac won't be in the strategy combinations or the model combinations if the models suck. They may need to be replaced, and that's a reality that you and I have to deal with. Is if we don't have something that can add to that combination, then we shouldn't be in there. And it also, of course, to be clear, it doesn't mean that we're going to be in every combination that we ever recommend. That's not the case at all. Sometimes there's, here's an easy one, right? For us, we don't pay attention to the tax iteration, right? So we're not the favorite for high tax sensitive people. There may be another solution out there, and I won't name them in this podcast, but there are other solutions that might be better, for that scenario. And when we recognize that, we have to know where we're good as a strategist making models and where other things might be better.
And to that point, when we launch products, it's other parts of the business kind of feed on that, right? So OCIO by Potomac is an independent product.
Yep.
Our TAMP uses OCIO. And so even for our TAMP, you have certain recommendations that come from OCIO, and you try to keep those separate as possible, right? So when we're on different platforms making these recommendations, it may or may not include us, just like it may or may not include, the hundreds of other managers out there. But, when it comes down to it, we try to put our best foot forward and say, look, this is the best combination, in terms of risk and return for what we see.
Yeah, and there's another reality check too, which is not only would a large office maybe have an allegiance to a particular manager. I can think of one advisor that's used the same manager. One of them that they've used for like 25 years. They do what they expect and they like them. So great. Can we help work around that to improve the overall client experience? And TAMP and broker dealers might be the same way, right? They might have some supporting vendors or those sorts of things that they've had a long relationship with, or people that come to conferences or whatever, and they want to keep those. And fine, we can work around that. But in the end, it's just another parameter. That's all it is. It's no different than saying I prefer ETFs over funds or funds over ETFs. Well, I prefer to keep this particular strategist as at least part of the mix and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a consulting approach, right? We're not here
Correct.
to force feed you models. We're going to make our best judgment on what models fit. But to your point, if someone wants a certain manager because they feel that space is needed and we don't, we'll make the recommendation around that, try to customize as much as possible. But ultimately, we're not taking any discretion here. This is just a consulting service to help people, get your mind in the right space when it comes to models.
We're not here to rip away the baby blanket. We're here to rip off the Band-Aid for bad manager combinations.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. All right, so look, I'm excited. This is something that we've been working on in the background, for quite some time, and like I said earlier, it morphed into this product. Any closing thoughts on today and launch day and what you see going forward?
I see more of this happening. I see that we are, personally, I think we're way, way, way ahead of schedule as far as the industry. Because the reality is that the OCIO concept has been around for decades, but it's been at the institutional level. It's been at the defined benefit plan level. Russell started back in the 60s with like J.C. Penney's and stuff like that. Of course, all the millennials won't know who that is, but right. But they started long ago in that space, and it's just now working down to kind of a TAMP level and an advisor level. So we're early and we get that, but I think it's pretty cool because it really helps that consultative approach and the conversations that you have on multiple levels for us.
Yep. You're going to be real busy over the next couple months. That's for sure.
I think you are correct, sir. Oh, good, because I wasn't doing anything up to this
point. No, you're just sitting around. Yeah. All right, well, that'll do it for us today. Thank you for joining us. Make sure to smash that like button and come back. Hopefully that we'll bring the OGs back. You see more on Jeff and I in the future. Thank you.
Uh-oh. Cheers.